This changes everything. In the last week, we've got not one, but two huge reveals around some of the future of Star Wars. And each is bringing something really unique to the Star Wars galaxy. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
We've got two big Star Wars reveals that has been happening. Like we were talking about last week, in the midst of the writers and actors strikes, there is a lot of discussion going on around more of the specifics on projects we either haven't heard much from in a while, like Sean Levy's Star Wars project, or ones that are changing entirely, which we'll get to in the later half of the episode. Starting off, I want to talk about a project we've heard rumblings on for years now. Basically, ever since Taika Waititi directed The Mandalorian, we've heard rumblings about him having a Star Wars project.
But it seems that we're not getting that anymore.
Basically, there is, quote, a Hollywood scooper named Daniel RPK. They have this whole system that you just subscribe to their Patreon for $2 a month, and they give you all the details on some Hollywood scoops. Apparently, they are reporting that Taika Waititi's movie, The Galaxy Far, Far Away, is officially dead. And this is, I think this is kind of surprising.
Yeah, we've done a lot of, thinking about what this movie would be like and just kind of thinking about him as a director for Star Wars and its own movie, or is it a movie or show?
It'd be a movie.
I have to say I'm not surprised.
Apparently, he has always been somewhat disrupted around it, or has gone back and forth around what he exactly wants to, or has been too busy on other projects to really get anything further along on his Star Wars project. But now, according to this, there's a couple things. One, he's got a movie coming out November 17th called Next Goal Wins, and also has been working around a lot of different TV shows and some other movies. He's very busy. Like, the guy's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And that could be part of it. I just think it's strange that it's reporting that it's officially dead. Because everything that we've heard from Taika Waititi's Star Wars project is that it's still alive, that it's still going to happen someday, when he finds the time to do it someday.
Yeah, but isn't that the story? Like,
that's kind of what we heard.
All of the other ones.
Rogue Squadron, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this is just the beginning of the end sort of thing for these. Which
I think is disappointing. Now, obviously, he did have a little bit of a misstep when you look at the Thor movies, mostly Thor, Love and Thunder, but there's a variety of reasons why that could have gone wrong, and I don't think it's necessarily to do with Taika Waititi. I think Taika is a very talented and creative director, and I really like basically everything he's done. Jojo Rabbit, all the way to What We Do in the Shadows, to I think it's Hunt for the Wilder People. Everything he's done, like, I've really enjoyed, and he's done really well for himself in the variety of projects he's done. Everything from TV to movies, and he has done some Star Wars projects. He directed the episode where he basically kills himself in Mando. ID-11, when ID-11 self-destructs, that was directed by Taika Waititi. So I think this is a big hit for things, but I do want to talk about, why do you think that they're just canceling it versus just letting it kind of simmer on the back burner?
It is interesting because this isn't a show. This is a movie. And it seems like they're really wanting to hold on to these movies.
Yeah.
But why I think they would do that, honestly, it sounds like it's not been moving at all. It sounds like it's not going to be done anytime soon. So it's probably just one of those where it's like, you were kind of edging off the cliff anyway, so we're just going to boot you off early, sort of thing.
It almost seems like he has been like, okay, yep, I'm moving it. Like you said, they are very much gung-ho on the idea of more Star Wars movies. They want the Star Wars movies, they need the Star Wars movies. While the TV shows are great, they don't make money, at least in a clear way.
Yeah.
Because if someone subscribes at the same time that Mandalorian Season 3 comes out or Ahsoka comes out, doesn't necessarily mean they're subscribing to Disney Plus to watch Mando Season 3 or Ahsoka. It just means that they subscribed at the same time. And it doesn't really categorize. But with the movie, people are buying the movie ticket and it's directly going towards that project. And with Lucasfilm really on the ropes with their recent reveals and releases like Indiana Jones and just the variety of projects that they've done, not necessarily hitting the mark when it comes to that box office, this is something that they are very aware of.
So yeah, surprising.
There was a rumor that Taika Waititi's movie was going to be a droids movie.
That's kind of what I was thinking it was going to be.
Which I think would, I think it would be a perfect spot or perfect kind of movie for Taika Waititi to do. But why would you release that with such a large gap in between movies? Why would you go from no Star Wars movies to the Rey Star Wars movie, to the Dave Filoni Star Wars movie, to the James Mangold Star Wars movie, to the Droid Star Wars movie?
Yeah, it's true. It's an odd fit.
Like, why would you use that gap? Why would you use that release cycle for a Droids movie when it definitely seems like that would be more fitting for a TV series?
It's true. I don't know. Maybe that's why it's dead. Like maybe it's dead as a movie, but maybe it's not dead as a show.
That is something that I think would be interesting. What are your thoughts on, again, we saw this with Obi-Wan and how poorly that went, but the idea of a Star Wars movie getting turned into a TV show? Because when you think about it, it's like, it's the opposite effect of the whole idea of a book getting turned into a movie.
It's kind of true. It is true.
Yeah. So much you have to condense down into a 2-hour spectrum. With a movie, you only have 2.5 hours. You have 3 acts in that 2.5 hour. You can't just like slice it and turn the first hour into 2 episodes.
It's true. But maybe you can.
I doubt it with what Obi-Wan ended up being.
That's true. But I would have more hope of expanding something than trying to shove this expanded thing into 2 hours. You know?
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think if there's anyone to turn a movie into a TV show, it is Taika Waititi, considering his vast experience with TV shows now. Yeah. With What We Do in the Shadows being a TV show, with I think there's a few projects on Hulu that he's done.
And Our Flag Means Death.
Our Flag Means Death, which is coming in for a second season here soon. And like he's got a lot of experience on the TV side of things. Like he's well known and well experienced with Star Wars now. I think if they don't bring him into a Star Wars project, I would be very surprised.
Unless he's just already done it, you know, like with Mandalorian.
That is the case with him. Like he's done the variety of things that he's done. I guess that is fair. Yeah. But what do you think? Like what are we going to have to look forward to with Star Wars projects? I think when Taika Waititi's Star Wars project was announced, it was a very different place for Star Wars. It was a very different perspective on the Star Wars galaxy. Like there was more of the idea of we're going to fill in the gaps. We're going to tell a variety of stories in the Star Wars galaxy. And now it seems like, well, we're going to tell 3 Star Wars galaxy stories. Or it's going to be these specific points. Or it's going to be this and not that.
Yeah, it's almost like we're coming into another age of Star Wars where it's like we're not expanding anymore. In fact, we're just going to take these 3 lines that we have, which is the Skywalkers, the Mandalorian, and Clone Wars, I guess. Or just the past.
The past.
The general past. Yeah. And we're just going to run with that, and let's not expand. Like, let's just stick here.
It's less so about exploring different parts of the galaxy than like this. We're going to expand on this era. We're going to expand on Andor, but Andor is going to lead up to Rogue One. Or I guess they are kind of doing their own new era with, they are doing their own new era with the Rey Star Wars project. That is going to be the beginning of a new era for Star Wars. Yeah. And then you've got the James Mangold. Yeah. Way Dawn of the Jedi era. Yeah. Which is so far beyond what anyone else is doing that it's basically its own Star Wars. Like it's not even...
It's barely even Star Wars. It's like we're just we're on a whole new frontier with that one.
So I think it's very interesting to look at what Taika Waititi's Star Wars project was and kind of like why he's stepping away, which I think it's fair for him to want to do other things. And if they do want released Star Wars projects sometime soon, past the writer strikes, of course, they need to have people that are going to have time to dedicate to a Star Wars project.
That is true.
I'm going to do this on the weekends or in between when I'm shooting this TV show and this movie. It needs to be, no, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You need to be able to put Star Wars first. And I think that's what we've been missing in the past cases.
I agree.
But I think it's funny that Taika Waititi's project is quote unquote dead. This isn't true yet. It hasn't been confirmed by anyone else. And I don't trust this person as much as I would trust something like someone like Bespin Bulletin. Bespin Bulletin is very much like, I'm going to get two sources for everything that I quote. Or if I can't, I'm going to tell you that. I don't know how accurate this person's information is or anything like that. But when you look at it, why is Taika Waititi's project dead when Sean Levy's project is still going? They're in the same boats. They're too busy doing other things. Sean Levy's doing Deadpool 3 as well as Stranger Things, as well as I think something else. And Taika Waititi's kind of in the same boat. But why does Taika's project die when Sean Levy's hasn't even begun putting pen to paper?
It just seems like they were focusing in on Taika instead of everyone else. It's just I think I heard this, so who knows?
Ever since Thor: Love and Thunder, though, people have kind of turned on Taika Waititi.
Really?
Yeah, but that's just the case of Marvel. Like, he went from the best Marvel director to one movie makes him the worst director ever, and that's the reason why Disney's failing.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So, but I think it's interesting to think about all these different things with this.
Yeah.
On a similar note, but different, while Taika Waititi's project is very ambiguous, we're getting more details on more has happened on the project called Lando.
Oh.
And the last month than had happened in the prior 3 years put together. So we have known about Lando for quite some time. We had it announced at a D23 when they did the whole slide where like Loki got announced, as well as the variety of Star Wars projects, Rangers of the New Republic, Lando, all of these different things were announced at that specific event. We stepped back and we're like, oh, but during the time up until maybe a month or two ago, hadn't heard all that much. But then Donald Glover and his brother, I think, they're the writing directing duo that did Atlanta, as well as a couple other projects. Donald Glover playing Lando Calrissian, of course, in Solo: Star Wars Story.
Yeah.
Very talented director, multi-hyphenate. On Twitter or Instagram, one of the two, they announced that they're taking hold of the project rather than the original person that was going to lead the project. And so ensued a lot more information than we had ever heard. One, the project's still going, question mark. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Two, these two people who are very talented are going to be leading the project, even better. And then most recently, last few days or so, the project is no longer a TV series, but reportedly it's going to be a movie.
Oh. Haha.
Speaking on Pablo Torres Finds Out, Stephen Glover was asked about the Lando series for the first time since reports of his boarding the project earlier this summer. He said the following: "Oh yeah, I can pretty much be like, yeah, we're doing it's not even a show. The idea right now is to do a movie. But like, that's the thing. Right now, because of the strike, everything is kind of a telephone game. All the information coming out." Which is what we talked about at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Just nothing's clear. Nothing's coming out true.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Lando series becoming a movie?
Yeah, I think it actually stands more of a chance to become a thing if it is a movie, just because of the direction that I think they'll try and go for Disney and whatnot.
Lando's a character that has the power to bring people in. I feel like Donald Glover as Lando, I really enjoyed him. Yeah. Like, was one of the best parts of Solo.
Agreed.
Even people that don't like Solo say that was their favorite parts. So I think that's a really good part of things. And to see Stephen and Donald Glover on the project together made me really excited. But going from a series to a movie, I think is a much better move.
I think they can get a much more poignant story and just have more fun with it, honestly. Just making it more concise and not having to try and stretch it out or...
Yeah, and giving it the legitimacy. We always talk about the funnel of Star Wars. On the top of the funnel are the movies. Second below that's the live action TV shows. Below that would be video games, followed closely by like TV shows, like the animated shows, and then we get into the books and the comics, and like that's the funnel. And then going from we're lower in the funnel to now we're the big boys. This is a real Star Wars. This is the thing that everybody and their grandma is going to see. And that's the thing with Star Wars. It's such a broad audience. People that watched it when it first came out are taking their kids, their grandkids. It becomes a family moment. And it's an opportunity for more people to get exposure to Star Wars as a whole. And generally, like, I think Lando is a character that can hold the screen for its own movie. Like, honestly, Solo basically became the Lando movie.
It did.
Like, that was a key part of the whole movie.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts about, do you think this is going to be like a continuation of Solo, or is this just going to be its own thing? Are they not going to even bring Solo into it? Like, what do you think?
I think it would be a continuation of Solo. Maybe not necessarily a follow-up, but set around the same time of the galaxy. I think it would be weird for them to have Solo as an introduction point for Lando and then go further back in time.
Yeah.
I think that would be confusing. Most people be like, oh yeah, now that this is Lando, this is obviously after Solo, right? I think that's the clear expectation. Like we're going to continue past what we saw in Solo.
Interesting. That could bring up a lot of different stuff. I mean, just with the...
I mean, technically we don't see Lando until The Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
So there's a lot that we can play around with Lando in that time period.
Yeah, that's exciting to see. I think that's going to be a really good one if it comes to fruition. Hopefully it does.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's good. I think it's going to be... I have high hopes that it's going to make it to a movie because this is a character from the original that, like you were saying, a broad amount of people are going to know and understand. And... yeah, I'm very interested. I was surprised to hear that Donald Glover and his brother were taking the project over. I was like, oh. It's always interesting when the director is the actor. I always get a little like, okay, but
he's done it in Atlanta before, and that was
I
very
haven't
successful.
heard of that.
It's a very, very good TV show.
Oh, okay.
That they both worked on.
Has he done any movies?
I honestly don't know. Let me check. So it doesn't look like he has done any movies before, but he has done a number of TV shows. He was an actor on Community. Most recently released a TV show called Swarm, and that's specifically around like fandoms and obsessed fans. And then Atlanta, of course, and he's done a lot of voice acting as well.
Yeah.
If you watch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, he would have been the live-action version of the Prowler.
Yep.
He was also in the first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got a very wide array of projects that he's worked on, and I think it would be really awesome to see him on the big screen as well as taking on that directorial role. And it seems like, from my perspective, I think if you invest in the more talented directors and give them the power and the freedom to make something special with an existing character, you're going to have success rather than trying to like directly lean on the name. Like if you got Martin Scorsese to do a Star Wars project, I think that would be fascinating, but it wouldn't make sense. I don't think that's why people would go to see a Star Wars project. George Lucas was no one when he directed the first Star Wars. Lawrence Kasdan was no one when Empire Strikes Back came out. Richard Marquand, the director of Return of the Jedi, was pretty much no one. These are directors that they didn't have a back catalog. They didn't have necessarily the experience with the big budgets, but they were able to bring something very special when you look at Star Wars.
Yeah.
And now I think you need that refresh. You need that injection of some really interesting directors that are talented. And when you look at Donald Glover and Stephen Glover, they are incredibly talented.
Well, and it's not even just talent. It's a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
You need the people who want to do it, like who aren't going to put every other project first, who actually are like, no, actually, we're going to take that over and we're going to do it. You know, like you need that gumption to get anything done in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's exciting. I really feel like just in what I've heard so far, I really feel like they're passionate about it, that they really want to do a good job and that they're actually doing it, you know?
Well, I think it's very indicative. In, I think, a GQ interview, Donald Glover had said that he's kind of taking a step back when it comes to just taking whatever role. He really wants to only do projects that make him really excited. Closely following that, in the interview, he was talking about Lando. And like, you know, this is a character that he's really excited about. I think he has done the best job. I loved Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. I think he did a really good job of capturing the feel. But Lando, Donald Glover, he became Lando.
Yeah, he did.
Like, to a T, it's exactly what you would expect a young Lando to be. So looking at where that began, and now looking at the passion that Donald Glover is going to have for this, I think that this is the opportunity that they're going to have for something really special in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know whether or not it's going to be a Disney Plus movie, or if it will be a movie, or if it could still be a series. Just depends on what they decide to do. This is incredibly exciting to see where they're going to take it. What direction do you think they would go with this?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I kind of wonder if they're going to bring back the whole, like, villain in Solo, like if they're gonna like do more of that,
the Crimson Sun, I think, or the Crimson Dawn.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
I think we've all been wanting to know more about that, and like to see. I could totally see him getting mixed up in that, totally like, accidentally, and then having to like backpedal and like work himself out of it, or just get on top of it somehow. You know, like.
Well, if you look at it, like Darth Maul would be very prolific in that era, because this is before his ultimate death in Rebels, which leads up after. So like it's right before A New Hope, when that would have taken place. And as we see in Solo, at the end of Solo, there's Darth Maul. There's some key things that are happening with the Crimson Dawn there that have been explored in the comics, but I think it would be really cool to see more of that explored through the lens of Lando. Like you were saying, having him accidentally go in there would be a really fun momentum.
It's the only way it would happen.
Oh yeah, he thinks this swindle is actually like, oh, it's not a big deal, super easy target. Yeah, we can totally take this. Ends up being Darth Maul, gets roped into that. Maybe we do see Solo, maybe not. I think if we did see Solo, I would be happy, but I think I would be more than happy to have it just be a Lando project.
Agreed. Either way, if this really does happen, I think it will give more credit to Solo. And I think that's good.
Solo's incredibly underrated. Villainous.
Yes.
It's villainous how underrated Solo is, considering all the different moving parts and how much it had to live up to. It wasn't just... It was the marketing paired with the release date, paired with the internal struggles around that movie that really came to why it didn't really get out all that much.
Yeah.
But I think having a Solo style, a Rogue One style Lando movie is exactly what I want to see. I'm not all that enthusiastic around the Rey project. Rey didn't capture me as a character as much as it has other characters. Like, she's fine. But the idea of a Lando character, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
And these new experiences, I think, would be really fascinating to see. But let us know your thoughts in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact at uplinkpodcast.com if you want to reach out through email. You can listen to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, whether that be Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, all the places. Check those out. And hey, if you could leave us a rating or a review on those platforms, it would be really appreciated. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.